What's going on, YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and today we are doing my top 5 for the mock draft here for the 2023 NHL Draft. So, of course, our list is at number 1, the Chicago Blackhawks. At number 2 is the Anaheim Ducks. At number 3 is the Columbus Blue Jackets. At number 4 is the San Jose Sharks. And at number 5 is the Montreal Canadiens. So our top 5 can go a lot of different directions, but the way I kind of look at this, there's really one pick that might surprise some people in my top 5. Other than that, it's kind of the same that everybody else has been saying, and I'll kind of give my reasoning for that once we get there. So at number 5 for the Montreal Canadiens, we're going to go from 5 down to 1. At number 5, this one has been mentioned a lot, and it is the number 3 player for North American skaters, and that is centerman from the USNTDP, and that is Will Smith. So Will Smith coming in at 5'11", 181 pounds, put up 42 goals, 62 assists for 104 points in 52 games this season. He did incredible this year with the US's National Development Program. This is another incredible prospect and a guy that a lot of people around the league are watching. Will Smith is in the categories of, in their draft year, guys like Trevor Zegras, Cole Caulfield, and considering that potentially Will Smith could have a new line mate in Cole Caulfield in the near future, those comparisons are definitely there. Will Smith's numbers are incredible, and I think a guy like that coming into Montreal just to add some more bona fide depth to this team would be an incredibly good help to the Montreal Canadiens. And considering the fact that the Canadiens are completely rebuilding this group, just the idea of now having a center core of Will Smith and Nick Suzuki is instantly going to make this team better. You've also got some of the younger guys that are a little more depth. You have guys like a Jake Evans or a Sean Farrell. This is a team that's really starting to develop, and you consider some of the wingers they already have there, like former first overall pick Yarov Slavkovsky, Owen Beck, Philip Mazar, Jesse Yelenin, Riley Kidney, Jan Masick, Raphael Harvey-Pinard. This is a team with so much depth down the wing and the middle, especially when you add a guy like Will Smith. I think this is an incredible draft spot for the Montreal Canadiens, and they have kind of the pickings of the litter for the third tier of draft players. I think this is a great pick for the Montreal Canadiens. It's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. At number 4 for the San Jose Sharks, this one's a little bit more debatable, but this is the one that a lot of people will disagree with me. And this defenseman is projected to go between 8 and 16 in this year's draft. I have him going all the way not only into the top 5, but number 4 overall. And he has an incredible name, and I have to give credit where it's due, but this will be the first defenseman off the board, and that is David Reinbacher. Now, David Reinbacher is a name that a lot of people have mentioned in a lot of draft rankings, but his name has been climbing steadily throughout the season, and I wonder if a team like the San Jose Sharks that has a lot of, they've drafted a lot of forwards here over the last couple of years, trying to add another defenseman alongside Mario Ferraro, and David Reinbacher would definitely fit the bill. Now, the way I kind of look at Reinbacher, the names that we've been hearing in terms of potential, comparisons, his numbers in his draft year, a lot of people have been comparing him to the numbers of, say, potentially a teammate at some point, depending on where he gets selected, but J.J. Moser, Roman Josi. David Reinbacher is an offensive defenseman, but he's also a big defenseman. So I think a guy like Reinbacher is a great fit for the Sharks. You're trying to build, put your stamp on the team here for the new organization there in San Jose with the new management group. I think a guy like Reinbacher, I just love saying that name. He has a perfect name, and he sounds like a guy that's just a perfect fit for what the Sharks are looking for. The Sharks already have a ton of really good forwards. They've already got William Eklund. They've already got some young guys like Kevin Labanc, Alex Barbanov, Nico Sturm. But then you look at some of the younger core like Noah Gregor, Fabian Zetterlund, who they picked up in the Timo Meier trade, Thomas Bordeleau, Brandon Coe, Ozzy Weisblatt. They've got some really good young players up front. But on the back end, you're kind of looking for that next defenseman. So, to add around guys like Nikita Okatiuk, Shakir Mukhamadullin, and of course Mario Ferraro, I think this is a perfect fit for the Sharks. And as they start to develop, some of those other defensemen can start to go. You're talking about Erik Karlsson, Vlasic, Shimmick, Matt Benning. That defense is a little bit old. So now you add a guy like Reinbacher, Ferraro, Shakir Mukhamadullin, and Okatiuk. That top four, maybe Nikolai Nijov, that's a much better defense than what the Sharks kind of are working with right now. I think that core is something you can build around. And if I'm the Sharks, that's kind of where I'm going. It might be the off pick here, but I don't know. I think the Sharks they already have a lot of the type of player that is in this draft that could be available, right? Unless Fantilli or Bedard is there or Michkov, if one of those three isn't there at number 4, I think the Sharks fall into that twilight zone where maybe they are willing to go for that kind of reach pick. And that's my opinion, but let me know what you guys think of the Sharks maybe going after Reinbacher at number 4. At number 3, the Columbus Blue Jackets like to go with maybe a kind of a high-risk, high-reward pick. And Jarmo Kekalainen is going to be going with somebody similar to what they did with Yegor Chinnikov a couple of years ago, and that is Matvei Michkov. Michkov's name has been in the conversation for the top 5, really, for the past 2 years, and it's no surprise that he continues to be there with numbers that he had last season. He had 20 points in 30 games played at the KHL level. His development is obviously kind of the question here. He hasn't been in a World Junior Championship against similar caliber players because of the restrictions with Russia right now and everything going on politics-wise with Russia. So that's kind of what the question is around his development. Is the whole Russia situation a hindrance on his development? Now, this is similar to a lot of Russian players where I look at guys like Evgeny Kuznetsov, Vladimir Tarasenko, who fall in the draft because they aren't eligible right away. I think the Columbus Blue Jackets and Jarmo Kekalainen have the patience. They've already got the team there where they don't need Matvei Michkov to be there next season. It's not something that they need right away. Of course, they'd prefer him to be there next spring, but it's just not how things necessarily work. And I think if I'm the Blue Jackets, I think patience is a virtue here with Michkov, and I think it's worth taking that risk. And I mentioned this in my other video, but in his draft year numbers, you're basically looking at numbers better or very similar to Artemi Panarin and Vladimir Tarasenko. Anybody in that category should not be falling outside the top 5, and I know for a fact if he was available at 4 for the Sharks or at 5 for the Montreal Canadiens, they would be selecting him. They'd be stupid not to. I think the Blue Jackets have to be on the forefront here. They've already got a really good center core. They've got Cole Sillinger. They've got some really good talent around that. There's no reason that they don't go for the explosive scoring winger in a guy like Matvei Michkov. And, like I said, you look at some of the guys they already have there. You look at Kent Johnson, Kirill Marchenko, Cole Sillinger, even in the pipeline that haven't even played yet. You look at some guys like Del Belbeluz, Jordan DeMay. They have some really good players even in the system. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Blue Jackets forward core looks like next season. And again, this is all without Matvei Michkov. You add that explosive offense to the team. You could see they've been trying to get that type of player the last couple years, right? They brought in Johnny Hockey last summer. They've brought in Patrick Laine here over the last couple years. They're looking for that guy that can do that, right? That explosive goal scorer that's a threat on the power play. They might have it available at number 3 with their draft pick. Number 2, I just made a video talking about the Ducks. That's why I'm wearing the Ducks hat, so make sure to check that out. But the Anaheim Ducks, I think it's a fairly easy pick at number 2, and that is Adam Fantilli. I think Adam Fantilli is a really talented player and a guy that, and we haven't talked about Leo Carlsson. I think Carlson's the guy that could fall in this draft, but the way I look at it right now, I think the Columbus, the Ducks situation is Adam Fantilli all the way. If Bob Murray was still here, I think they go after Leo Carlsson at this pick. But I think Adam Fantilli, with the numbers he put up last year at Michigan, wins the Hobey Baker as a freshman. He gets 50 points in 29 games, has a really good season with Michigan. This is a guy that will not be going back to Michigan in the fall. He's going to be on the Anaheim Ducks roster. And even if he's not, the Ducks don't even need him necessarily next season with the amount of talent they have in just first-round pick selections as centers, right? You've already got Isaac Lundestrom, Nathan Gaucher. You've also got guys, and people are going to rip me for calling him Gaucher, but we're going to go with it. And then the top two, which is Mason McTavish and Trevor Zegras. Now you add a guy like Adam Fantilli on top of that in maybe not even this fall, but next fall. That is incredible. The Ducks have a really good pipeline down the middle. Now we're going to see maybe some of those guys maybe even jump to the wing. And I think the Ducks are set. This is a team that I'm really looking forward to going into the fall. And even with Fantilli there or not, the emergence of some of the younger players, and we're going to start to see some of the younger wingers like Perreault coming up into the lineup. We're going to see Drysdale continue to get better. I'm really excited for the future of the Ducks. And, you could call it a consolation prize. I think, that's kind of a disrespect to Fantilli's numbers and what he's done, but he's a really good player, and I think similar to the ilk of the Jack Eichel situation, where if there wasn't Connor McDavid in the draft, he would be selected first overall. I think we're going to see a lot of comparisons between Fantilli and Eichel in terms of NHL comparisons going into this draft. And that leaves us at number 1 with the most shocking pick at number 1 for the Chicago Blackhawks, moving up 2 spots in this year's draft. They're absolutely, without a doubt, going to draft the WHL's Regina Pats center, Connor Bedard. Number 98 is heading to the Windy City. I think there's no debate about this. He put up 143 points in 57 games with the Regina Pats last season. He was selling out the Calgary Flames Saddle Dome as a WHL 17-year-old player. There is no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a superstar in the making. This is a guy that had a wrist injury on his left hand during the season last year and couldn't even use his hand. So he was purely using his other hand. He built up a ton of strength in his wrists, and the ability to release the puck, the deceptiveness. He has one of the best releases probably in his first year going into the National Hockey League. Now he's got to round out the rest of his game. One of his criticisms from people is that he's a smaller guy. He's a fairly small dude, and there is a lot of questions about, you look at Mitch Marner, who has that very good release and very talented, but he does get pushed around, especially come playoff time when the ice gets the space on the ice gets a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter. The game gets a lot tougher for the smaller guys. So there is that question there for a guy like Bedard, but in terms of talent, this is a kid that is extremely passionate, extremely into the game. It even got to the point where I think he went to Hawaii last year and didn't want to go because he didn't want to not play hockey. He brought his rollerblades with him. He brought his stick, and he was playing hockey while he was on vacation in Hawaii. He's just one of those guys. That's why he's going first overall to the Blackhawks. And again, you talk about comparisons. He put up a 2.51 points per game. In terms of CHL numbers, those are comparable to Crosby, McDavid, and Mitch Marner. So you want to talk about high-class company, that is superstar material right there. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of my top 5? I think there's going to be a lot of controversy with maybe putting in a guy like David Reinbacher and taking out a guy like Leo Carlsson. I think the ceiling is definitely there for a guy like Leo Carlsson, but with the teams at their spots, unless San Jose takes him at number 4, I just don't see the fit there. And again, Leo Carlsson is already a guy they have a lot of in a lot of these organizations. I think they're going to be looking to fulfill other spots on the team, and it's not like Leo Carlsson is such a miles ahead better player where it's take the best player available, where I think he kind of falls victim to just not being at that Fantilli level where you have to select this guy no matter what, because that's the thing with the Ducks here, right? Like, the Ducks already have that amount of talent at center, but Fantilli is that good that they wouldn't go for a guy like a Reinbacher or a Matvei Michkov, because ideally in this spot they would go for a defenseman or a winger because they have center talent already. But it's one of those things where because he's so good, you have to take the best player available. So it's going to be interesting to see what you guys think of this, because I don't want to discredit a guy like Leo Carlsson. I just think there are better players at their positions at the time of the team selecting that I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see where Carlson goes. But let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know who you guys have in your top 5 going into this year's mock draft. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Peace.